How do you build a Java application? As I mentioned before, right, if you want to build your, let's say you have an idea, I want to build my own calculator. So to set up the project itself, it will take 2 or 3 days. That's at least 2 to 3 hours. In Java now, with the help of Spring framework, now there's a framework called Spring which helps you to build project quickly. And let's understand what are the tools we use in the industry. Of course, right, in colleges you learn something different, and the moment you get into industry, you see a different scenario. Okay, you have not get into industry yet. Okay, so I will tell you. So once you get into industry, you will see a different scenario. Reason being, industry is changing very fast, and that was we were discussing in the panel discussion. Industry is changing very fast. Every year, every 6 months, you get a new JavaScript framework. Every 2 weeks. Yeah, every 6 months you're getting new Java version. It's very difficult for academic to keep that pace, right? And that's why academic nowadays is focusing more on your foundational skills. And the more foundational skills you have, it will help you to learn new technologies faster, okay? So let's understand whatever skill set you have and what you have to learn before you get into industry is what we're going to talk about now. So the first thing, there are different tools and frameworks available to make your work easy. Am I still audible? Yeah, so there are a lot of tools and frameworks available to help you to make your projects. So let's start with the first one. The most important thing for every one of us is IDE. Any idea what is IDE means? That's right, it's Integrated Development Environment. And we use different IDEs for different technologies, right? Okay, so in general we have Eclipse, IntelliJ IDEA, VS Code, NetBeans. Who uses NetBeans nowadays? Because of your college syllabus, you have NetBeans by default, or you choose to work on NetBeans? College, okay. Because when I was in my college, we used to have the same framework or same IDE. I used to love NetBeans, and then I saw IntelliJ IDEA. So again, the only problem with IntelliJ IDEA is the good version is paid, and not so good version is free. Okay, and don't worry, once you get into industry, they will give you. So the company will give you a MacBook and the IntelliJ IDEA. They will give you a laptop and IntelliJ IDEA, don't worry. The next one is servers. See, when you make a web application, you need some server. Example, if you're coming from, in Java we use different servers, okay? See, different languages have different frameworks. Example, if you talk about PHP, we use something called XAMPP server. I don't know how many of you heard about it. Yeah. For .NET, we have .NET server. Example, if you want to run ASP, you use .NET server. For Node also, we use Node server or some server. Node server, right? Yeah, Node servers. And for Java, we have a lot of different servers. One of the famous one and free one is Tomcat. Okay, so we have to learn that as well. Next, we have to understand MVC framework. Now, this is specific to web development. See, in the IT industry, we have a lot of different things apart from web development. The only problem is, nowadays, if you say you want to get into software development, the first thing comes to mind is web development. The reason being, you can blame the influencers. The social media influencers, YouTubers, they all say, get the package of 10 crores by learning this course on web development. So they are basically taking you away from other technologies. Example, we have mobile development, we have AI, we have blockchain, we have AR, VR. I mean, you know the future, right? The different technologies working on the Apple Vision Pro. I know we can't buy it, but at least you should know it. Apple Vision Pro is the future. In future, you don't have to travel from different city or different place to a conference in Bangalore. We could get the same experience. Of course, we could have done this on Zoom as well, right? So convenient. I could have been in my shorts, sitting on my chair, having a sip of coffee after every dialogue. Or you could have been in your own place with your loved ones, right? And you can enjoy the session by keeping your mic and camera off. So why you came here to attend this session? Experience. You can't get this experience on a Zoom call. But in future, you can wear that VR set and you can feel the same thing. It will make you feel that I'm standing in front of you, and also it will make me feel that you're sitting there. Is it making sense? Yes, everyone? So world is moving towards AR, VR, blockchain, AI, and we are stuck into web development. So I'm not saying web development is bad, I'm just saying explore. But since we're talking about web development, we use MVC. You know, sometimes I become a Baba. So ignore that. Yeah, so we have something called database as well. So it's not just about web development, it's also about understanding how do you store data. There are different type of DBMS, right? We have RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. We use a very famous language there. Language is SQL. MySQL is a software. Hota hai. In college also we used to have the same problem. What we are going to learn today? MySQL language. On which server? SQL server. So we used to interchange that, and we used to do that a lot. So basically SQL is a language and MySQL is a software. And we don't have only one option. We also have Postgres. Heard about Postgres? One of my favorite. We also have Oracle. Yeah, so the RDBMS is all that. On the other hand, we have NoSQL database. And people feel happy about NoSQL because there is no SQL. People feel happy about NoSQL is because we don't have SQL there. But we do have query language. You heard about Cassandra? MongoDB? Yeah, so there's something called MongoDB, there's something called Cassandra. There are a lot of NoSQL database available. In Cassandra, we do use query language, which is called CQL. So unfortunately, you can't run away from query language, irrespective if you're working on RDBMS or NoSQL. Okay, so you have to learn at least one from each. Let's say MySQL here and MongoDB from here. At least one. You can learn multiple, but then I know you're busy with Facebook, Instagram, so at least one. Next is ORM. Again, this is specific to the project which we are going to build. So we are going to focus on ORM as well. And then the framework, which is Spring. We can't talk about everything in Spring in this particular session or in the entire day. The reason being, if you want to learn Spring, it will take around 1 or 2 years to master it. Today, let's understand how powerful it is. And then later on, when you get free time, you can just explore about Spring Framework. One of the best places to learn Spring is you can learn from the Spring documentation. They have their official website, and I love the documentation of Spring. You can learn everything step by step. But of course, if you're a video person, so we have something called IDE. We have already talked about the different IDEs available. We got VS Code, Eclipse, and one of my favorite, which is IntelliJ. Okay, let's talk about the server. So if you want to run any web application or enterprise application, you need servers. In the world of Java, we have the entire shop of servers. We got Glassfish, and I don't remember the names now. We got WebLogic. Nitin, WebLogic also, WebSphere, WebLogic. Yeah, we have a lot of different servers available. One of the most famous is this. Yeah, the Tomcat. Now Tomcat is famous is because it is free and it is lightweight. It's not the best. Just because something is famous doesn't make it best. Nothing personal. Yeah, so let's talk about the MVC. Now whenever you make a web application, you have two things there, right? Web application, we all use web, right? Facebook, of course, Amazon to buy something, window shopping, Myntra. How many of you don't do online shopping here? Why? You might have your own shop, right? Okay, cool. So whenever you do any online shopping or any website, you see two things there, the front end and the back end, right? Everyone there with me? I don't have a slide for front end, back end. I think I do have, but later. So we have a front end, we have a back end. The front end is mostly built using one beautiful language, which is not a programming language, HTML, right? You know what HTML is? If you want to make your web page look good, we use something called HTML. Without HTML tag also, you can make a web page. You can simply say, hello world, without any tags, you got your first page. Is it possible? The only requirement is save that file as .html. Then why do you need tags when you can make a web page without HTML? You got my question? To organize things, to make it look beautiful. But the problem is, HTML is like a small makeup kit. If you want to look very good, you need the entire set of makeup. The moment you open your wardrobe, the makeup item should come out. That's your CSS. But then the only problem is, if you use HTML, CSS, and when you go for a date, your crush might impress on you before you say something. The moment you say something, you're like, bruh. You forgot to implement JavaScript. Okay? It's also about what you are saying is important. So JavaScript is good, only in front end. So we have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for the front end. Now for the back end, what are the options we have? We have a lot of options in back end. You have, initially days was PHP. Those were golden days. Now if you want to be a web developer, learn PHP, you're done. Then the world of Ruby came into existence. A lot of applications are still on Ruby, right? Facebook started with PHP. Now they're into new language called Hack. I don't know how many of you know. Facebook have their own language called Hack, which is a flavor of PHP. Then a lot of websites are still on Ruby. We have the other option, which is Java. Most of the enterprise projects are on Java. Reason being, it is more stable than other languages. It is more scalable, and we have a lot of developers available for Java. We have one more option, which is Python. So we have Python and JavaScript mostly used in startups. Reason being, if you want to implement something, you can implement that on day one. Everyone there with me? Yes, sir. But Java says now we can also do that. With the help of Spring Framework, you can build your application in first 10 minutes. So again, it will catch up slowly for startups, but then it is famous in the enterprise world. Okay. Yeah, so we have front end and back end, right? But if you can look at the back end, it's one big thing, right? We can break down the one big thing into small parts. So what you do is, so let's say you are a front end, okay? Or let's say you're a back end. And just for the example, let's imagine we are building a, in the industry you don't get paid well, right? To start with. And you know that the masala dosa wala outside your company or college earn more than you. And then you thought, I want to do that. So let's say you have opened your own shop, masala dosa shop. Okay, and let's name it Masala Parlor, Dosa Parlor. Cool? Yeah. Guru Dosa Parlor. Okay. GDP. Oh, that sounds interesting. Okay, so we have, It will increase. It will of course increase. So GDP, cool. Now let's say a customer comes to you by saying, I want dosa. So who will take the order from dosa? You will take the order? Yeah. Who will make it? No, you just started. Of course, you are the sole person, right? You will take the order, you will make the dosa, you will serve it, you will clean the dishes, everything. So you're the sole person, right? And you're earning good amount of money. Of course, GDP, it will go up. Now let's say after a few months, you realize, hey, I can hire people. So now you will say, I'm a very good chef. So I will make dosa, but I want someone else to handle the customers. Someone who can speak properly. There are some people that are introverts, like me. I don't talk outside the sessions. The moment I'm on stage, I have to behave like extrovert. That's how I earn. But outside, if you talk to me, I will like, okay, thank you, get lost. That's what I say in my mind, but you can imagine, right, how introverts are. They avoid talking. So you prefer to make dosa and then someone else will do that. So let's say yellow t-shirt, if that's yellow, I'm colorblind. It's green, right? I was kidding. By default, men are colorblind. They always get confused between green and yellow. Like this shade, how many of you feel that this is yellow? Green. What color is this? Come back. No colors here. Sridhar. You have a nickname? Shri? Okay, so Guru and Sri. So let's say you hired Sri. You love to work with Guru. You have to interact with the customers. Kya chahiye, right? Okay, cool. So now, when a customer comes, customer will talk to whom? Sri. Then Sri will talk to Guru, and then Guru will give the dish back to Sri, and then you are customer facing, right? They have no idea who this guy is. You are the customer facing person, right? Now after some time, because see, if you grow your business, you want more people, right? So what you want to do is, you just talk to the customer for the request. Serving will not be done by you. We need someone else to do the serving. Okay? So let's say you, Venkatesh, right? Yes. Finally. I'm very bad with names, but I remember your name. Okay. So Venkatesh, you are responsible to serve. So now you are responsible for the orders, you're responsible for the making of it, and you're responsible for serving it. What's the advantage of having 3 people instead of 1? Time. Okay. Next is, if you want to improve your service, let's say there's a new dish in the world. Let's say pineapple dosa. Yes. Some people eat that. So let's say if there's a new dosa called chocolate dosa, is okay? Huh? Eggs. Already exists. Come back. Let's say if there's a new dish called cheese dosa, I'm happy with it. I know it exists. I don't have an example now. I don't want to imagine chocolate dosa also.
She said jam dosa, jam. You can take that one example.
A dosa. Okay. Now out of these 3, who has to learn that new skill? Chef. Let's say there's a new customer in the city, or new bunch of customers who are from different country, let's say Japan. Who has to learn a new language? Sridhar. Let's say there's a new way of garnishing things. Let's say when you buy a samosa in 5-star hotel, you get a samosa like this, and you get amazing garnishing for 500 rupees. Who will do that? Who has to learn that? Venkatesh, right? So the idea is, if you can separate the concerns, now these are called concerns, who will do what? So you can individually work on each of them to improve the application. The problem is, if you have everything bundled in one, it's very difficult to upgrade. Are you there with me? And that's why most of the web application prefers the chef, this, let's stay in technical terms, the controller, the model, and the view. Who is serving to the customer? View. Who is talking to the customer? I mean, take the request, controller. Who is making dosa? Model. And that's why this MVC is very famous. Different frameworks have modified it. Example, in Django we have MVT, model view template, but it's similar to MVC. Everyone there with me? Yes. Oh, that's rhyme, right? Okay, cool. Thank you so much for volunteers. So we got MVC. Sit. So basically that's how MVC works. So we have a browser and we have a mobile application. Now the thing is, nowadays we don't have one big application which has the front end, back end combined. Nowadays we build 2 different applications, front end different, back end different. In front end we have very famous tool, or the we can say tool, which is React. How many of you know React? Cool. So we have React, we have Angular, of course. We have React, we have Angular. So we use them as a front end, right? The front end people has no idea what is happening in the back end, and the back end guys has no idea what is happening in the front end. Then how do they communicate? And that's why there's something called APIs. You know, in restaurants there's a window between the waiters and the cooks or the chefs. They talk between that window. The waiters has no idea what is happening inside, and the cook has no idea what is happening outside. The window is their API. Making sense? Okay. So the front end can be anything. The front end can be a web application, the front end can be a mobile application, doesn't matter. We can make a common backend for it. This is the backend which we are going to build. The front end is already built by Ninad. If something goes wrong with the front end, you know who is responsible. So that's the browser. We don't have a mobile application, but I think we can use a mobile phone also as well. What you built? Okay, cool. So we have one common front end. The back end, we are going to build this. This is the project which we are going to build. Not built, it's already built, I will show you the code. So we have a controller, then we have a view. Why need controller? Take the request from the client. Why we have view? To send the data back, right? And then who will generate data? And that's why we have model. See, if we talk about the entire internet, it's all about data. You know, we have this term called IT. What does exactly IT means? I know the full form. What does it mean? You know, when we are on stage, we like to have an open-ended question. Huh?
Data manipulation.
Okay, data manipulation makes sense. So I will give you two statements. You have to tell me which one is correct. IT is about getting the information about technology, or IT is about using technology to work with information. How many of you say second one? How many of you say first one? No, first year here. So people from the first year, they have this mindset, learn as many technologies as you want because information technology. And then in second year you understand, no, it's not about technology. It's about information. Whatever subjects you learn in your college, you can connect them with the help of data. Why you learn programming? To manipulate data. Why you learn database? To store data. Why you learn networking? To transfer data. Why you learn OS? To run the application which will manage the data. It all comes down to data. In fact, one of my friends used to say, data hamara beta hai. Because in the IT industry, it's all about data, right? So whatever communication is happening, it's all happening with the help of data. And the way you can transfer data, we have a new format. Initially, we used to use XML. Nowadays, we use JSON. Beta JSON. Sounds good. Yeah. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So basically, we use a format called JSON. It's very easy. You open the curly brackets, you close the curly brackets, in between you have data. Every data will have a key. Naam kya hai Naveen? Age 33. It's area Bangalore. Got the point? That's a JSON. Okay. But where this data is coming from? It's database. Okay. Now this is how this is how you build an application, right? Now, how do you do that in Java? So one of the problems we all face is when you talk about this database connectivity here. So how do you connect your Java application with database? How do you do that? Yeah, we have this amazing concept called JDBC. Exam mein aata hi hai, right? Irrespective which college you are, one of the reasons we all love JDBC is because it has a 12 marks question. I mean, 14 marks, one topic. What's the passing marks? 30. That means you just have to prepare for one more topic and you're done. Awesome. In JDBC, we have this beautiful 7 steps. Come on, guys, steps abhi. You know, right? How many of you done JDBC? How many steps we have? 7, right? Suddenly I got scared. Okay, so there are 7 steps, right? Connect with database, create the connection, fire the query. And the moment you say fire the query, you have to write a language, SQL. Imagine Java is difficult. Already difficult, right? SQL difficult. Mixing these two, right? More difficult. So that's the problem with JDBC, where you write SQL query inside the Java code. Now with the help of ORM, you don't have to do that. Just imagine, as a Java developer, you got the object. Everyone there with me? Yes. I'm a Java developer. I got the object. There's a database there. What if you can simply take the object and throw that object to the database? It should be saved automatically. Magic, right? What if you want an object and you simply say, I want that object with ID 1, and then object comes back to you like a magic. And that magic is actually possible with the help of ORM. Now this is not specific to Java, it is there in multiple languages. In Python also we have Django ORM. In C# also we have, I forgot the name, but it's there in most of the languages. Not sure about JavaScript? It should be there, of course. So let's say we have a class, a very simple class, student, because we all are students for life, right? We have three things: roll number, your Aadhaar card number, your name, and your marks, your salary. Doesn't matter. Oh, let's not compare people based on salary. Let's not also compare students based on marks, right? Let's do that. Okay, anyway. But anyway, we have three particular field here, right? Now, if I ask you to create a table for this, how will you do it? What will be table name? Student, of course. What will be column names? So if you can do it, Java can also do it. Tell any framework, hey, I have a class, create table for me. Now that particular framework will say, how? Tell them, take class name, take column names. And what will be the data type of the columns? It's based on the type of your fields, right? And that's how you create a table. But the question is, how will you create, what about the data here? How this data is represented here? How will you represent each row in terms of object-oriented programming? Okay, let me give you a hint. In one table, how many rows we can have? Any number of rows, right? For one particular class, how many objects we can create? Any number of objects. If I create two objects, those are my two rows, because every object will have a different data. Everyone there with me? Yes. That's the magic of ORM. But this is just a concept. How will you implement this? And that's why we have famous tools to implement this. One of the famous one is Hibernate. Let me repeat. One of the famous one is Hibernate. But the only problem is the framework which we are going to use is Spring. On the other hand, we have Hibernate. Why to use this two? Spring says, how many of you Shah Rukh Khan fan here? Okay, let's change the example. No, I'm a Shah Rukh Khan fan. It's just that we don't have a majority here. Salman Khan fan? You have seen that movie, Kisi Ka? Nothing personal, Jinath. I will give you a party in the evening. Where was I? No actors. Ignore. The thing is, Spring Framework says I can do everything. If you want to implement ORM, you don't have to go to Hibernate. Spring says I will give it to you. So in Spring, we have something called Spring Data JPA. I have no idea how to remember all these terms. Okay, but we are trying to record the video. Probably you will find this on YouTube. Probably. Let's see. Okay, so we have something called Spring Data JPA, which I will show you in the code as well. Now let's talk about the Spring Framework. Why in the industry this framework is so famous is because of one thing, which is called dependency injection. Any idea what dependency injection means? Okay, so a simple question. How do you create object in Java? How do you create object in Java? With the help of new keyword, right? So let's say the class name is A. Not a good name, but I'm very bad with names. Or maybe let's have a class name as Guru. So Guru, obj. Oh, now I'm objectifying you. Class name A. So let's say A, obj equal to new A. That's how you do it, everyone. How many objects we can create? Any number of objects. And we also know if you want to use class features, we need objects first. You can't call methods without objects. I'm talking about non-static methods. So that means if I want to use something, I need object. And who is responsible to create the object? You. If you are responsible to create the object, who is responsible to maintain the object? It's you. Who is responsible to destroy the object? It's you. I know we don't do that. We open the file and we say, done. I'm not closing it. How many of you done that? You open a file, you open database connection and you say, let it be open. Why do I care? Don't do that in production, okay? When you're working for a company, make sure you close the resource. Every connection costs money. I know it's your own laptop, local host, chalta hai. But then in industry they use cloud. Every connection, every request costs money. So you have to close the connection as well. But the thing is, it is you who is responsible to create the object, maintain the object, destroy the object. Spring Framework says, who will create the object? I'm Spring Framework, okay? Who will maintain the object? Who will destroy the object? Who will use the object? So your job is just to use the object. Don't create, don't maintain, don't destroy. The advantage would be, you don't have to worry about the objects. You simply say, I want the object, and then Spring Framework says, Tathastu. Yeah. To implement this, we have a concept of Spring. In Spring, we have Spring Core. So Spring has multiple projects. Spring is just not one project. It has multiple small projects. For web, different project. For mobile, different project. For networking, different project. Everyone there with me?
Yes, sir.
Feeling sleepy? You don't have a choice anyway? So fake it. Give us fake smile. That's the way I am doing. Okay. So we have something called Spring Core, and Spring has multiple projects. The problem is with Spring Framework, it's amazing framework. Let me repeat. Spring Framework is amazing. The only problem is, if you want to build a project for, let's say, 6 months or 1 year, the first 2 days you have to spend in this setup. Why will someone use Spring, right? And that's where we have Spring Boot. So Spring Boot is a layer on top of Spring Framework, and it says, you want a project? I will give you a basic project which will run on the first go. You don't have to do any configuration. Of course, if you want to do something extra, you can do it. But the basic project will be given by the Spring Framework. Next is Spring Boot MVC. If you want to build a web project, you can use Spring MVC, which we are going to do. And then we have something called Spring Boot Data JPA. We have that term here. The replacement of Hibernate. We want to use ORM, right? But then to implement that, we have to use Spring Data JPA. Now the example which I'm going to show you now is called a product web app. The reason we have this particular project is because in our office we have a lot of different products. By any chance, if you see my office photos or if you get a chance to come there, everything is lying there. Laptops, cables, remote, and every day we can see everything. But suddenly they vanish when we want it. I was looking for this yesterday for 1 hour. Okay, Harsh is responsible to manage the entire office, so you can blame him. And the moment I say, Harsh, I'm not able to find this, he's like, kahi to hoga. Right? So we created this product just to maintain where the product is. We have different drawers, different tables. So this remote will be on, let's say, black drawer. This particular phone will be on this shelf. We just want to manage that. And for that, we have to build a project. We need a front end. The front end is built using React. In the earlier days, for the front end, we used to use JSP. I don't know how many of you know it. The old days of JSP. In the industry, no one is using JSP now. The old projects are, but new projects have been using different layers. 2 different layers. One is front end, second is back end, and they communicate with the help of a window, and that window is your API calls, right? Okay. Now we have talked about MVC, right? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
But if you get down inside MVC, we can create some more layers in between. Now what layers? The request goes from the React application to the server. This is your server here, backend server. The request goes to where? The controller. Now the only job of a controller is to accept the user request. Next, we don't even need view here. Reason, when you say view, you're talking about the web page. The front-end application don't need a web page. What you need is data. Everyone there with me? Let me give you a simple example here. How many of you use a cricket score application on your phone. To check the cricket score, we all do that, right? Now let's say your internet is off, and when you open the app, can you see the layout? Yes. What you don't see is the data. When the mobile phone gets connected to the internet, what you see is the data on the layout. That means from the server side, you have not received the layout. What you have received is only data. Nowadays, everything is based on this thing. The front end will have the entire layout. What will come from the server is the data. In which format? TXT, JSON, right? Or XML, that's your choice. But the controller job is to only work with the request. But what if you want to say, I am a client, I would say, I want to add 2 numbers. Let me repeat, I want to add 2 numbers. The request goes from where? From the React to controller. Controller says, okay, I got your request, but I don't know how to add 2 numbers. Who will do this job? The service, okay? The service job is to do the calculation and processing. But what if I want to fetch the data from database? Request goes to controller, controller says, that's not my job, I will forward it to, it's just like SBI Bank. So the request goes to the service says, I don't know how to talk to database. And that's where we have something called a DAO layer, which is data access object. And this thing communicates with the database. And that's how the flow goes, right? Internally in the server, what passes is the model. Okay? And what goes in the React application is your JSON. So basically we are going to build our project in Java.